Hello, my artists. Mr. Limburger here, and today we're going to be talking about mandalas. Now, a mandala is just a circular design. Usually it's geometric. Sometimes it's about meditation, religion, or inner peace. But a mandala is just a simple design. You start with a center point and work your way out, creating a circular design. So here is just a simple mandala, as you can see here. And it's talking about mandalas being a Sanskrit design. And basically it means both circle and center. So it's like meditation. So I'm going to show you a few different mandalas that I've done. This is on a paper plate using some neon pastels and some black paint. It's like a scratch art. Here's a smaller one. So you can see it's kind of fun. This one's on black paper using construction paper crayons. And again, it's a square, but I started with the center point and worked my way out, creating my central design. And with this one, I did fold the paper, so I had like pie pieces or pieces to help me keep my design the same when I went around the circle. So you can kind of see my creases showed me where I keep my design, so it's the same. And the last one is this really large one that I've done before, and that's using several circles that we traced. Then we go back with simple lines and designs inside of there to create our mandala. So you want to think about that center design, starting out in the center and working your way out. So today, grab some paper, maybe a paper plate is what we're gonna do, some oil pastels and some black paint, and let's create a mandala. So to start with our mandala, what you're gonna need is a paper plate, and I'm using a China plate. It's a little bit heavier duty and it's a little bit better for the oil pastels and makes a nicer, smoother surface to color on. And you're gonna need some oil pastels, and I'm gonna use neon colors so they show up really bright after you do a little scratching with your work. Later, you'll need a bamboo skewer, some circles to use, some black paint, and a paintbrush. So remember what we're doing is we're gonna start by coloring a center color, and we'll go around the circle and put our color onto our plate. So later, when we scratch, our colors will be revealed. So when you think about your color choices, think about how you want those colors to go on there. You may want to start with a brighter color or the darker color in the center. Now on the China plate, the middle is where the word's at. So you want to kind of just get in there and make sure you get it grooved into those little letters. It depends on how much color you want to put down. I like doing a little bit at first, and then making my circle just get bigger. So that's all you're doing, is making that circle get larger and larger as you go. Now, if you notice, I've got some little pastel crumbs coming up as I'm coloring. As I color and I get in the way, I take my plate and just shake them off. Excuse me there. So I'm gonna continue coloring this, and all I'm gonna do is just go around my circle. You want your colors to touch. They blend in a little bit. Oil pastels blend very well until you get your entire plate filled in. And you can color all the way up the edges here and the side piece. You can make this color band as big as you like or as little as you like. So you want to think about your design while you're coloring. Maybe you want to throw in a color in there, but you know you're going to do a lot of scratching on. Just make sure your colors are heavy. You've got plenty of oil pastel on there. You can actually feel the oil pastel if you put your finger on there. But don't rub your hand across your work, because that will smear your oil pastels. If you want to keep that ring look, you don't want to smear your work. And I'm just using my colors in the order that came in the box. You can kind of see it's helping them blend together a little bit easier and giving you a nice color spectrum. And you can find oil pastels at pretty much any kind of art store, retail store, big box stores near your house. So it's not a hard material to find. Now when you get to these edges, a little bit harder to color. Just use your hand to help you hold it. You're gonna push kind of hard up against those edges. Now, if you didn't have oil pastels, you could do this in crayon. But if you do it in crayon, you really have to press down hard. Make sure you get enough crayon wax to transfer to the plate. If you don't have enough crayon, when you do the black paint and scratching, it just will not work. The oil pastels is easier, but still you gotta have enough oil pastel in here to resist the black paint from sticking. Try to finish up here with my purple. So I'm gonna do this kind of fast here. You might want to do yours a little bit neater. Now we just go back over areas if needed. So I've got my coloring done. I'll knock off my little scraps here and go grab my paint. I'll be right back. Now with the paint, you just want a little bit in there. You can kind of just scatter it on your plate. You don't want too much because you can always go back and do a second coat if your first coat did not completely color over oil pastel. So I'm using a very soft bristle brush. Just paint kind of generously. Don't scratch and scrub your brush. Let it kind of glide and slide over your work. You should get all the edges. Now the white areas that you see will just stay black. And that might be good for your design. It's okay. So now I've probably got this covered up pretty good. So I'm gonna go back and just kind of smooth out any of the big gulps or big blobs of paint. If you got too many big blobs, you can kind of take them off. Wipe them off on a paper towel or something. Always keep blotter paper under my work for accidental marks, for accidental brush strokes. So you see, I probably had too much paint on my plate the first time. And this looks pretty good. So now I'm going to take this to an area to dry, and I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, so what I've got now, got my plates dry. Now this is not the one I just did, so you can see, you can still see some color coming through. This one could probably use a second coat, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to move on so I can show you what we're going to work on. Now, in my design, I used the templates here to help me get my circles started. So you can see that one went there, and there, and there. That gives you areas to work in, okay? So it makes it easier to get your designs in there perfectly symmetrical or in a circular fashion. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my first largest one, the CD. Now you can go bigger than this. I'm looking for that Chinette word right there in the center. I'm gonna try to make sure this is centered up as best I can. Doesn't have to be too perfect, but I'm gonna get it there. Now, when you get a bamboo skewer, make sure it's got a good point, or you can use a toothpick to scratch. And you're just gonna just lightly scratch around make your first mark. Now if a spot, the black paint doesn't come off, that just means you had not enough paint, not enough oil pastels, or if you had a spot you missed. And it's okay, just adds more interest to your work. And then I can take my second circle, line up, you see how my fingernail just scratched that there, so you gotta be careful. Get my second circle in here. Again, this is just gonna help me keep my design in a circular design, which is called, whoops, which is called radial symmetry. So anytime you do something that goes around a circle, it's called radial symmetry. That's not too bad there. Now I'm gonna add a last line out here. And this one you just kind of run along the edge of the plate, the groove or the side piece here. That's pretty easy to do. Okay, so now, again, as you're working, if you don't have some little dust crumbs come up, just knock them off. Keep moving on. You can see I've got some paint still on my hands here. Okay, so I like to start in the center. Make my first little scratch. You see that did really well. And then from there, I'm just gonna work out. Now, sometimes you might see in a mandala, you might see some lines that divide your circles into like pie pieces, like a pizza pie. So if you want to draw those in there, you could, and then every time you do something here, it should go around to each one of those. Or you can just draw on your own and just think about keeping your designs the same. So I like to do that. So I start with like a shape, go from the top, bottom, side, side. And then I go like up in between and fill in. So now mine's not perfect, but it's got my design going around the circle. You can see those cool colors come out in there too. It's pretty nice. So I'm gonna knock off those shavings. Just that kind of carefully. Then I can go back inside of here if I want to and scratch out more. You can always start with something simple and go back to more. So I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna radiate this. So I'm just gonna trace around it. And having that outside circle kind of keeps me in there so I know how much room I have. And then maybe from there, and I'm just thinking about simple lines and shapes that are easy to draw with the bamboo skewer. As long as you keep it the same and go around the circle, you can create a pretty cool mandala. So there's a center part. Pretty simple, but it started. And I'm gonna keep working here. You can just keep watching. If anytime I'm going too fast, you can pause and just start it again. So you can see how having the other circle there is keeping me from going too high. And if I want to go back, maybe add something there. This is just a very satisfying piece of artwork. And it's nice to have some mandala music playing while you're working. So now you can see how I've used, in this area I did several different things. So I can have things that come out, but also come from here too. So I'm gonna find my center again. I'm gonna make a big petal here. Do one at the bottom, side, side, in between. I don't have to touch, but this is keeping my design the same. So then I can go back and think about how I want to maybe go back and add several of those in each one of these. And this is just a cool project. You see how fun the colors look. And since you are using neon pastels, they will be light reactive under black light. So if you have that black light, you can turn it on and these would glow in the dark. That's something kind of fun. Now mandalas aren't the only thing you can create with this. You can do lots of different things. Your imagination is your world. See, now I'm going to use the top line here to add something coming down into these areas. Again, mine's not perfect. Sometimes it's a little hard to draw with sticks. But you're getting the idea. The more color you show, the brighter your design's going to be, which is kind of fun. I always go back and say, do I want to add something else in here? Maybe I want to come in here and add little scooped lines where I can. That's just another piece of added detail. So then I can think about coming out here now, and maybe I'll kind of repeat that same, make it a little bit bigger. Sometimes I get caught up and I do the same kind of stuff over and over, and then I go back and change it a little bit. I'm gonna go this way. Sorry, my hand's in the way, blocking everything. Sometimes it helps to keep your bamboo skewer straight up and down to get a good scratch. If you know if your bamboo skewer is not working that great, you might want to clean off the end a little bit. Then we'll come in here and just think about simple stuff that I can do to make this a little more fun looking. I'm gonna skip that one there. I think that might be a little close. And maybe inside of some of these, I'll go back and add something else. Now you do this and you might sometimes run into a problem where you're not exactly the right number to go around the circle, so you kind of come up short. So I'm gonna go back this way and see if I'm gonna be correct with my spacing. So I'm doing every other one. And so I need to do one there, and then I need to put that line in there, so I have it right now. Okay. As I said, you can start out simple and go back and add more. Now when you start drawing up on these sides here, it's a little harder. So I would think of something simple, and I'm gonna repeat that same little bumpy line. It's easy. So doing those edges, you might have to hold your plate sideways. You could do it on triangles, rectangles. The key thing is keep it simple. You always go back and add more to your work. Do it simple at first and go back to more detail. Okay, so there's a good start. And now up in here, I like to do something on the outside edge. And I am going to do something with zigzags or triangles. I always go back and add more. First, it's going to be simple. Go pretty fast here, so my video won't be too long for you to have to watch. Okay, so there's a pretty good starting, and again, as I said, you can always go back and add more. So you can see they get a good start to them. Add more designs, add more texture, or more scratch off more areas, and come back in here and cut out some more areas if I needed to or wanted to. And there you have a beautiful mandala circular design. Have a wonderful afternoon.